Okay, so today is just a short lecture. We're going to talk about the evaluation of algebraic expressions. So now that you know order of operations, you know how to solve expressions. Those what you've been solving so far are called expressions. Anything without an equal sign is called an expression in math, right? So like if I write that is an expression. That's one example of an expression. Here's another example of an expression. 9 plus 2. That's an expression. Here's another example. 8 minus 17 divided by 4 divided by 4. That is an expression. All of these things you've been doing with the order of operation are expressions. Okay? Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Expressions are made up of numerals. Saxon differentiates in the Saxon book. They say, well, numbers are merely ideas. Like that is not a number. That is a numeral that represents an idea of 9 of something, right? But there is not a 9 of something. There's not a 9. There's no such thing as a 9. There's a numeral that represents an idea of 9. That's what they get in. That's what they talk about. It's a little philosophical for me, to be honest with you. But it is true. And so, but all of these expressions that I've written up here have numerals in it. Would you agree with me? That's a numeral, that's a numeral, that's a numeral. When they have only numerals, they are called numeric expressions.
When they what?
When they only have numerals in it. Numerals and pluses and minuses, divides, multiplies, but they're all just numerals. They are called numeric expressions. Now, there is a different kind of expression that we're starting to move into, and they are called algebraic expressions. They say in Saxon that you can also call it mathematical expressions. Whatever. I think of it as algebraic expressions. Algebraic expressions. What that would look like would be something like this. 9x, or x minus 8, or 2x plus 3, or 18x divided by 32. Right?
Wow.
Those are all expressions, but they are algebraic expressions because they have that little unknown guy, that mystery guy that's either called x or called a or b or c or d or anything. The experience.
Maybe negative
right.
x.
And what is that thing called? What is that unknown thing called?
A variable.
Yes. It is called a variable. Now, does anybody know why you would call it a variable?
Because the number can vary.
It's so right. The number varies, or like the number can vary. That is really right on. The number can vary. Did I spell vary right? That doesn't look right.
Yeah,
Yes, I did.
yeah.
But variables are unknowns, and the numbers can vary. At least they can in expressions. Sometimes in equations, there's only one value that x could be, that unknown could be. But not always. Sometimes in equations, that unknown could be anything, right?
It could be like a cat.
But when you're dealing with expressions, that unknown could be anything. So this is what you're going to start seeing. You're going to see problems like this. You're going to see a x, y, z. That is called an expression. That is an algebraic expression. And I'm going to say evaluate. I'm going to say evaluate when x is equal to 2, y is equal to 4 and z is equal to 10. And this is just one example. I could have put anything in here, but that's what I chose off the top of my head. So all I do is I substitute. You guys know what substituting means?
Yep,
Right, if Gabe was going to substitute for me as a teacher, I would go flying out the door and he would come up here and he would start, would you like to finish the lecture? Okay, all right, so we're going to substitute. Instead of letting x stay as an x, we now know that x is exactly the same thing as a 2. That's what equals means, right? You guys agree with me?
Yeah.
Yep.
X is equal to 2. So whenever I see x, I could also think 2 in my brain, right? So instead of thinking it, I'm going to actually write it. Instead of writing x, I'm going to write a 2. Now, what is x doing to the y?
Multiplying.
It's multiplying. Remember in algebra, algebra is about finding all sorts of shortcuts. So you got to make sure you're writing this down. You're writing this down in your notes? So, it's all about shortcuts. So if you put two letters together, instead of having to put a time sign between them, you just leave them together, and that means multiply. So 2 times, what's y?
4.
Y is equal to 4, so I'm going to put a 4 here. And then what's z? 10, so I'm going to put times 10. Now I can just solve it. 2 times 4 is 8. Times 10 is 80, so that is my answer. Okay, so that's a very simple one, but that is an example of an algebraic expression where they ask you to evaluate it when those variables equal a certain value. It's really simple, right? Do you guys agree with me?
Yeah.
It's really simple. That's the only other thing that's in the 4 chapters that you're doing. This week, order of operation was like most of the lessons. Right? It was almost all about order of operations, and then there was that one last thing on chapter 14, or lesson 14, of evaluating algebraic expressions. It's really quite simple. So let's just do one more just to practice.
What?
We'll say evaluate. So let's say, let me see if I can find one that's a little trickier. Where am I? 14? Okay, how about that? So we've got negative x minus negative a plus b. So evaluate that when x is equal to 17, a is equal to 4, and b is equal to 8. All right, so I'm not going to do this in my head. I am going to actually write it in right underneath these. I don't go over here personally. I don't recommend, unless you're really, really good at this kind of stuff, right? I recommend you write it out and you begin right underneath it. It says x is 17, so all I have to do is this, right? Right? What's wrong, Adam?
Negative.
Oh my God, you're right. The negative is not part of the x, it's separate. So I got to put negative, and then x is 17, so then I'm going to put my 17 minus parenthesis. Now, I'm going to write my minus here now, and then I see, oh, a is 4, so I'm going to write a 4. And then I'm going to say plus, because there's a plus sign, and then b is 8, so I'm going to write 8. Beautiful. So now I got to figure this out. What do I do? Order of operations, right? What do I do first?
Parentheses.
What?
Parentheses.
In the parentheses, right. So what is negative 4 plus 8?
4.
Or 8, another way to think of it is what's 8 minus 4? Right? It's 4. So we've got negative 17 minus 4. So what is negative 17? Here's 0, 0. Negative 17 minus 4 more. Negative 21, exactly. And that would be your answer. So that's what lesson 14 is all about. I told you it's a quick lecture, right? That's it. It's using order of operation after you substitute the letters.